Elena's hands shook as she stood backstage. Damien had divorced her in a hospital room, walked out without looking back, and now, 3 weeks before their baby was due, he wanted one last thing. Her voice at his reception. Entertainment for the guests who once called her Mrs. Cross. His lawyer's letter was clear. Perform, or the settlement that kept her mother alive would disappear. So she came. She stood on that stage while 300 people whispered and stared. While Damien sat beside his perfect new bride, watching her with that cold smile. The one that said he'd won. But he didn't know what song she'd chosen. He didn't know that every lyric was a loaded gun. When the first note left her lips, his face went white. 12 hours earlier, Elena had been staring at that same lawyer's letter in her cramped studio apartment, reading it for the third time. Morrison and Associates. Expensive letterhead. The firm that had handled her divorce. Per Settlement Agreement Section 4.7b, you are contractually obligated to fulfill one performance request. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination of all financial support, including medical expense coverage for Eleanor Martinez. Performance, December 14th at Mr. Cross's wedding reception. The paper slipped from her fingers. 6 months pregnant. Alone. This. She pressed her palms against her belly. The baby kicked, sensing distress. Through the wall came the hiss of her mother's oxygen machine, the soundtrack of survival. Morning sickness hit. She barely made the bathroom, knees hitting tile. When it passed, she stayed there, forehead against porcelain. This was the price. Choosing her child over her marriage. The mirror showed someone she barely recognized. Dark circles. Sharp cheekbones from eating less, so her mother could eat more. The designer clothes Damien bought her gone. Sold for groceries. Now just a stretched t-shirt and leggings. He wants to humiliate you. But the alternative was her mother dying. The settlement paid for everything. Oxygen, medications, the nurse who came 3 times a week. Elena walked to the window. 3 floors up. Building that smelled like mildew. December gray outside. Across the city, Damien Cross was preparing for his perfect day. And he wanted her there to witness it. That same morning, Damien adjusted his bow tie in his penthouse mirror. Milan tuxedo. Midnight blue. Victoria said black was too traditional. Everything perfect. Everything controlled. Damien. Victoria called from the bathroom. Cars here in 20. Ready. 42. 6'2". Sharp features that photographed well. Self-made billionaire, the magazines said. Tech genius. Philanthropist. They didn't know the shortcuts. The people he'd stepped on. The wife he'd erased like bad code. His phone buzzed. Confirmed. Elena Martinez will perform as contracted. He smiled. This moment had been carefully constructed. The venue, Grand Kensington, where he'd proposed to Elena 2 years ago. The guests, 300 elite witnesses to his first storybook romance. And now the performance. Elena on that stage. Visibly pregnant. Alone. Singing at his wedding to another woman. Everyone would see what happened when you didn't give Damien Cross what he wanted. The baby had been her choice. A child complicates everything, he'd said 6 months ago, handing her the clinic's card. We're building my company. You understand. This is our child, she'd whispered. It's a problem. We can solve it quietly. Or you choose it over me. She'd chosen wrong. Victoria emerged. White silk. Cashmere. Beautiful, uncomplicated Victoria, who'd never burden him with conscience or consequences. You look happy. I am. Still strange, your ex-wife singing at our wedding. She's a professional. Just business. Progressive, actually. Victoria smiled, satisfied. She didn't know Elena was pregnant. Didn't know about the ultimatum, the divorce, the settlement that trapped Elena like a contract with the devil. Nobody knew. His phone buzzed. Car ready. Ready to become Mrs. Cross? I've been ready since we met. Back in her apartment, Elena stared at the email on her phone. Performance requirements. Song selection guidelines. Select one romantic ballad from approved list. Submit by December 10th. All love songs. Wedding standards. Designed to make her complicit in her own humiliation. She closed it without choosing. Then opened her personal music library. Years of teaching voice, studying composition, collecting songs that carried truth. Her fingers scrolled. If Damien wanted her to sing, she'd sing. But she'd choose the song. And when she was done, everyone in that ballroom would know exactly who they were celebrating. One hand on her belly. Her daughter moving beneath her palm. We're going to be okay. She wasn't sure who she was convincing. Now, 12 hours later, Elena stood in the backstage shadows of the Grand Kensington ballroom. The ceremony had ended. Vows spoken. Rings exchanged. The reception hummed with champagne and laughter. She'd arrived through the service entrance. Borrowed black dress, the only formal thing that fit over her belly. No makeup could hide the exhaustion, the fear. A production assistant handed her a microphone. "You're on in 5. Her hands trembled. The baby kicked hard as if protesting. Through a gap in the curtain she could see him. Damien at the head table, Victoria radiant beside him. That smile on his face, cold, satisfied, victorious. He thought he'd won. The MC's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special performance this evening from someone close to the groom." Elena closed her eyes. Breathed. Every lyric is a loaded gun. "Please welcome Elena Martinez." She stepped into the light. 300 faces turned. Whispers rippled. Eyes widened at her belly, her cheap dress, her presence. Damien's smile sharpened. Triumphant. The pianist, a kind-faced man named Julian she'd met during sound check, played the opening notes. Not from the approved list. Elena lifted the microphone and began to sing the truth. Have you ever been forced to choose between your dignity and your survival? What would you risk to speak your truth? Tell me in the comments. The first note hung in the air like a held breath. Elena's voice, clear, haunting, cut through the champagne-soaked chatter. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. The ballroom stilled. She'd chosen the truth untold. Not a love song. A confession. I was built on lies you never questioned, wore a smile while my heart was breaking, you asked for perfection, I gave you silence, now watch what silence turns into. Damien's champagne glass froze at his lips. His eyes locked on hers across the room, and she saw it, the flicker of confusion, then recognition, then panic. He hadn't approved this song. Hadn't even heard of it. Victoria leaned toward him, whispering something. He waved her off, jaw tight. Elena's hands steadied on the microphone. The baby kicked hard. She placed one palm on her belly and kept singing. I stood in your shadow and called it devotion, swallowed my voice and called it love. But love doesn't leave you bleeding in hospital rooms. Love doesn't make you choose. The lyrics landed like stones in still water. Ripples spread across the crowd. Guests glanced at Damien. At Victoria. At Elena's swollen belly. Someone whispered, "Is that?" Julian's piano swelled beneath her voice, giving her strength. During sound check, he'd asked what she was planning. She'd told him the truth. He'd said, "Then I'll make sure they hear every word." Now he played like he was writing her story into the music itself. You gave me an ultimatum in a sterile room, said choose. The baby or the ring, I chose life, you chose appearances, but I'm still here, and the truth is... Stop this. Damien stood, chair scraping. Victoria grabbed his arm, confused, alarmed. But he couldn't stop it. Not without confirming everything she was saying. Not without making a scene that would prove her point. He sat back down. Trapped. Elena's voice grew stronger. 6 months ago you walked away, left divorce papers where love letters should have been. You erased me like I was a mistake in your code. But mistakes have heartbeats. She placed both hands on her belly now. The gesture unmistakable. A woman gasped. Someone's phone lifted, recording. Damien's face drained of color. Victoria stared at him, realization dawning in her eyes like horror. Damien, she whispered, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. Is she? He didn't answer. Couldn't. Elena's voice filled the silence. You wanted me here to watch me break, to prove you won, that you moved on, but I'm not broken, I'm just finally awake, and everyone can see what you've become. The ballroom was silent except for her voice and Julian's piano. 300 people bearing witness. Some guests were crying. Others looked sick. Several were already texting, live tweeting, filming. Damien's best man leaned over, hissing something. Damien shook his head sharply. Victoria stood, tears streaking her perfect makeup. You told me she was just a vocalist. You said. Sit down, Damien growled. You said you'd never been married. The lie fractured in real time. Guests at nearby tables heard. The ripples spread faster. Elena sang the bridge, her voice raw now, grief and strength braided together. I'm carrying your daughter while you marry someone else. I'm singing at your wedding while her heartbeat drums in mine. You thought you could bury me in shame. But shame only works when the truth stays silent. A daughter. The word hit the crowd like thunder. Damien launched to his feet. That's enough. Every phone in the room was recording now. Elena didn't stop. The final verse. The one she'd written herself. So here's my gift on your wedding day, not a song, but a mirror. Look at what you've done, look at who you are. You can't buy back a soul you threw away, can't silence a voice that's already free. Her voice cracked on the last note. Not from weakness. From the weight of 6 months of silence finally lifted. The final piano chord faded. Silence. Then, someone started clapping. Slowly. A woman in the back. Then another person. Then more. Not the polite applause of a wedding performance. Something different. Heavier. Like solidarity given sound. Half the room was clapping. The other half sat frozen, staring at Damien. Victoria ripped off her veil. Threw it on the table. You bastard. She walked out. Her bridesmaids scrambled after her. Damien stood alone at the head table, 300 witnesses watching him unravel. Elena lowered the microphone. Her legs shook. The baby kicked frantically. Julian appeared at her side, steadying her elbow. You did it, he whispered. Now let's get you out of here. But Damien was already moving toward the stage. His face no longer controlled. No longer the billionaire philanthropist. Just rage in an expensive suit. You think you can humiliate me? His voice carried across the silent ballroom. You signed a contract. You'll never work again. I'll destroy you. Elena looked at him. Really looked. Saw him clearly for the first time in years. You already tried, she said softly. Into the microphone. Every word captured. It didn't work. She handed the mic to Julian and walked off the stage. The crowd parted for her. Some reached out, gentle touches on her arm, whispered thank yous. Business cards pressed into her hand. Call me if you need a lawyer. My cousin runs a women's shelter. Here's the number. You're so brave. Damien stood frozen, watching her leave. Watching his perfect day disintegrate around him. The last thing Elena saw before she disappeared through the exit was his face. Stripped of its mask, everyone finally seeing what she'd known all along. He was nothing without control. And she'd just taken it away. Outside, the December air hit her like salvation. Cold and clean and real. Julian helped her into a waiting Uber. He'd arranged it during the chaos, thinking ahead while she'd been singing her heart into evidence. Where to? The driver asked. Elena opened her mouth. Realized she had nowhere to go. Her apartment was being fumigated. Her mother was at the hospital for overnight observation. She had nothing but a borrowed dress, and the truth still ringing in her ears. Julian slid into the seat beside her before she could protest. My place has a guest room. It's safe. No strings. You need to rest. She should have said no. Should have maintained her walls, her isolation, her hard-won independence. But the baby kicked. Her body ached. And for the first time in 6 months, someone was offering help without demanding payment. Okay, she whispered. As the car pulled away from the Grand Kensington, Elena looked back once. Through the windows, she could see chaos. Guests arguing. Damien surrounded by people. Some confronting him, others trying to salvage the wreckage. Her phone buzzed. Notifications flooding in. The video was already viral. Hashtag weddingsinger, hashtag truth-teller, hashtag courageous mother. But Elena turned off her phone. Leaned her head against the window. Closed her eyes. The war wasn't over. Damien would retaliate. The lawyers would circle. Life would get harder before it got easier. But tonight, just for tonight, she'd done what she came to do. She'd survived. She'd spoken. She'd won. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. If you had the chance to expose the truth about someone who hurt you in front of everyone they know, would you take it? Or would the cost be too high? Let me know what you think. Julian's apartment was nothing like Damien's penthouse. Small. Warm. Books stacked on every surface. A piano in the corner covered in sheet music. The kind of space that felt lived in, not curated. Guest rooms through here. He led her down a narrow hallway. Bathrooms across. There's food in the fridge. Help yourself to anything. Elena lowered herself onto the bed. Every muscle ached. The baby had finally stopped kicking, exhausted from the adrenaline. Thank you. The words felt too small. Get some rest. Julian paused at the door. For what it's worth. What you did tonight took more courage than most people have in a lifetime. When he left, Elena pulled out her phone. She'd turned it off in the car, but now, 43 missed calls. Hundreds of texts. Thousands of social media notifications. Her hands shook as she opened the first message. Damien, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Damien, my lawyers will have that settlement terminated by morning. Damien, you violated the NDA. I own you. Damien, answer your phone. She deleted them without reading the rest. The next messages were from numbers she didn't recognize. TMZ here, we'd love to get your side of the story. Good Morning America wants to book you for an exclusive interview. I'm a literary agent. Have you considered writing a memoir? Delete. 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 One message made her pause. Unknown, this is Victoria. We need to talk. He lied to both of us. Elena stared at it. The woman who'd just watched her wedding implode. The woman Damien had chosen over her. She closed the message. Didn't delete it, but didn't respond either. Her mother's nurse had texted, "Your mom's asking about you. Should I tell her what happened?" Elena, no. Tell her I'm fine. I'll visit tomorrow. The last thing her mother needed was more stress. More proof that Elena's life was falling apart. She opened Twitter. The video was everywhere. #WeddingZinger was trending #1 worldwide. Millions of views. Think pieces already publishing. Hot takes flying. Pregnant woman destroys ex-husband at his wedding. The most savage revenge I've ever seen. This is what happens when you underestimate a woman's voice. Billionaire Damien Cross exposed as cruel ex-husband. Stocks already dropping. But others cut deeper. Using a wedding as revenge is trashy no matter the circumstances. She signed a contract. This is just a gold digger trying to get more money. Imagine being so bitter you ruin someone's special day. Elena's chest tightened. She'd known this was coming. Public opinion was a knife that cut both ways. Her phone rang. Private number. She answered without thinking. Elena Martinez? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. This is Sharon Lewiston from Morrison & Associates. Mr. Cross has instructed us to inform you that as of midnight tonight, all settlement payments will cease. You violated Section 8.2 of your NDA by making defamatory public statements about our client. We'll be pursuing legal action for damages. The line went dead. Elena sat frozen. The settlement. Her mother's medical bills. The oxygen machine. The medications. Gone. The room spun. She couldn't breathe. The baby kicked, sharp, insistent. A knock at the door. Elena. Julian's voice. Gentle. I heard the phone. You okay? She wasn't. But she opened the door anyway. He took one look at her face. What happened? They're terminating the settlement. My mother, her treatments, her voice cracked. I knew he'd retaliate, but I didn't think. He can't do that. He already did. Julian ran a hand through his hair. Okay. Listen. I know a lawyer. She specializes in this kind of thing, coercive contracts, financial abuse. She'll take your case. I can't afford a lawyer. She does pro bono for cases like yours. He grabbed his phone. Let me call her. Right now. Elena wanted to say no. Wanted to retreat into the walls she'd built. Handle this alone like she'd handled everything else. But the baby kicked again. A reminder of who she was fighting for. Okay. Across the city, Damien stood in the wreckage of his reception. Guests had fled. Victoria was gone, her family threatening lawsuits for emotional distress and fraud. The wedding planner was crying in the corner, surrounded by abandoned champagne flutes and wilted centerpieces. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Board members. Investors. PR team in full crisis mode. He ignored them all. Marcus, his best man, his college roommate, the only person still standing beside him, poured 2 glasses of whiskey from the open bar. You should have told me. Marcus handed him a glass. About the pregnancy. About the ultimatum. I could have helped you manage this. There was nothing to manage. Damien downed the whiskey. She made her choice. I made mine. Yeah, and now the whole world knows you're a bastard. I'm a realist. The company was at a critical stage. A baby would have derailed everything. She understood that when we got married, career first, family later. Did she? Or did you just decide that for both of you? Damien slammed the glass down. Whose side are you on? Truth's side. Marcus refilled both glasses. You've always had a blind spot, man. You think if you control the narrative, you control reality. But people aren't code. You can't just debug them when they don't perform the way you want. She signed a contract. You blackmailed a pregnant woman into singing at your wedding. Do you hear yourself? Damien's jaw tightened. The settlement was generous. She could have walked away with enough to live on for years. But she wanted to keep the baby, fine. I gave her the money anyway, with conditions. She violated those conditions. By telling the truth. By breaching her NDA. His voice echoed in the empty ballroom. Even the wedding planner looked up, startled. Marcus studied him. You really don't get it, do you? You didn't lose tonight because she broke a contract. You lost because everyone saw who you really are. And no amount of money's going to fix that. Damien's phone buzzed. His PR director. Rachel. Stock dropped 12% in after-hours trading. Board wants an emergency meeting. This is bad, Damien. Really bad. Another text. His mother. Mom, I just saw the video. Please tell me it's not true. Please tell me you didn't abandon your pregnant wife. He didn't respond to either. I need to fix this. Damien grabbed his coat. Get ahead of the narrative before it spirals further. How? I don't know yet. But Elena doesn't get to destroy everything I built with one song. Marcus watched him head for the exit. You're still trying to win. That's the problem. This isn't about winning anymore. But Damien was already gone. Back at Julian's apartment, Elena sat on the couch wrapped in a borrowed blanket while Julian talked to his lawyer friend on speaker. The NDA is likely unenforceable, the lawyer, Diane, said. Her voice was matter-of-fact, reassuring. If he coerced you into performing under threat of withholding medical care for your mother, that's duress. And NDAs can't be used to conceal illegal activity or abuse. What you described in that song, reproductive coercion, financial control, those are red flags for a judge. But he's already cut off the payments. He can try. But if we file an emergency motion first thing Monday, we can get a temporary restraining order preventing him from terminating the agreement until the case is heard. Trust me, no judge is going to side with a billionaire who made his pregnant ex-wife sing at his wedding. Elena closed her eyes. How long will this take? Months, maybe. But you'll be okay. I've dealt with men like Damien Cross before. They rely on intimidation. Once you push back, they fold. He doesn't fold. Everyone folds when the stakes are high enough. Diane's tone softened. Get some rest tonight. Come to my office Monday morning. We'll handle this. When the call ended, Julian brought her tea. Chamomile. Caffeine-free. You thought of everything, Elena said. I have a younger sister. She was pregnant last year. He sat across from her, careful to maintain distance. I learned a lot about what helps. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city hummed, cars, distant sirens, life continuing despite everything. Can I ask you something? Elena said finally. Anything. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. This could blow back on you. Damien has connections everywhere. Julian set down his mug. 3 years ago, I was supposed to perform at a corporate gala. Big career opportunity. But the CEO hosting it had a reputation, sexual harassment, abuse of power, the whole thing. I was broke, desperate for the exposure. My agent told me to keep my head down and play. Did you? No. I backed out. Lost the gig, lost my agent, spent 2 years rebuilding from scratch. He met her eyes. But I could sleep at night. When I saw your song choice during sound check, when you told me what you were planning, I knew I had to help. Some things are more important than keeping your head down. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. Not love, too soon for that, too raw. But recognition. The first glimmer of trust she'd felt in months. Thank you, she whispered. You already said that. I'm saying it again. The baby kicked, gentler now, settling. Elena placed a hand on her belly. Her name's Grace. I decided tonight. Grace. Julian smiled. That's perfect. Because despite everything, her voice caught. Despite all of this, I still have her. And maybe that's Grace. The undeserved kind. The best kind, Julian said quietly. Elena's phone buzzed. Another message from Victoria. Victoria, I left him. I'm at my sister's. If you want to talk, no pressure, I'll be here. I'm sorry for everything. Elena stared at the message. The woman who'd taken her place. The woman who'd been lied to just like she had. Maybe they weren't enemies. Maybe they were both just casualties of the same man's cruelty. She typed a response. Elena, Monday. After I meet with my lawyer. There's a cafe on 5th, Margot's. 2 p.m.? The reply came immediately. Victoria, I'll be there. Elena locked her phone. Pulled the blanket tighter. Across the apartment, Julian had moved to his piano. Playing softly, something improvised, melancholic but hopeful. Is this okay? He asked. I can stop if. No. It's perfect. She closed her eyes and listened. Let the music wash over her. Let herself, for just a moment, believe that maybe she'd survive this. That maybe, despite everything, there was still grace left in the world. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Forgot the wedding, the song, the fallout. Her hand went to her belly. Grace was still peaceful. Then reality crashed back. Her phone. 247 missed calls. She dressed in yesterday's borrowed clothes and found Julian in the kitchen making breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. You didn't have to. You're eating for 2. He set a plate in front of her. Non-negotiable. The eggs were perfect. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite. Her phone rang. Her mother's nurse. Elena answered, heart racing. Is she okay? She's fine but confused. The hospital's saying her insurance was flagged. Something about payment issues. They're asking about her coverage for next week's treatment. Tell them I'm handling it. She gets her treatment. Whatever it costs. Elena, the bill's all ready. I'll figure it out. She hung up. Hands shaking. Julian was watching. The settlement. He works fast. Elena pushed the plate away, appetite gone. My mother doesn't know about any of this. She thinks the divorce was amicable, that I'm doing fine. If she finds out, the stress could. Hey! Julian sat across from her. Diane said she'd file the emergency motion Monday. That's tomorrow. One day. One day where my mother might not get her medication. How much? Elena looked up. What? The treatment. How much does it cost? I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. His voice was steady, certain. How much? 12,000. For the month. Julian pulled out his phone without hesitation. Give me the hospital's billing department number. Julian, that's nothing compared to what you did last night. You stood in front of 300 people and told the truth when it could have destroyed you. Let me do this one thing. Elena's throat closed. She gave him the number. He called, spoke quietly to someone on the other end, read off his credit card information. 5 minutes later, it was done. Paid through next month, he said. Gives Diane time to get the restraining order. I'll pay you back. Every cent. I promise. I know you will. But right now, your mom gets her treatment and you get to breathe. That's all that matters. Elena couldn't speak. Could only nod. Grace kicked, strong, insistent. Like she was saying thank you too. Monday morning, Diane's office was small but efficient. Law books lined the walls. A framed quote, "Justice delayed is justice denied." Diane herself was 50-something, sharp-eyed, wearing a blazer that meant business. I've reviewed everything. She spread documents across her desk. The settlement agreement, the NDA, the lawyer's letter threatening termination. And I watched the video, all 4 million views of it. 4 million. As of an hour ago. You're famous, Elena. Whether you want to be or not. Diane leaned forward. Here's the situation. Damien's lawyers are arguing you violated the NDA's confidentiality clause. But the clause itself is problematic. It prevents you from discussing any details of the marriage or its dissolution. That's overly broad. Courts don't like NDAs that silence victims of abuse. I didn't call it abuse in the song. You didn't have to. Reproductive coercion, forcing someone to choose between a wanted pregnancy and their marriage, is a form of domestic abuse. Financial control? Also abuse. The song was protected speech about your own experience. Elena's hands twisted in her lap. Can you stop him from cutting off the payments? Already filed. Diane slid a document across. Emergency motion for temporary restraining order. Judge Reeves is hearing it this afternoon. She's fair, thorough, and doesn't tolerate bullies. I'm confident. And if she says no, she won't. But if she does, we appeal. We fight. That's what we do. Diane's expression softened. I've read your file, Elena. Everything you've survived to get here. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. Strong people rarely do. They're too busy surviving to notice. That afternoon, Elena sat in the courthouse waiting room, Julian beside her. She'd insisted he didn't need to come. He'd come anyway. Elena Martinez? A bailiff appeared. Judge Reeves will see you now. The courtroom was smaller than she'd expected. Judge Reeves, a black woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair, sat behind the bench, reading documents. Damien's legal team filled 3 rows. 5 lawyers in $1,000 suits. Elena had Diane. Ms. Lewiston. Judge Reeves looked up. I've reviewed your motion. Mr. Cross, your response argues that Ms. Martinez violated a legally binding NDA. Care to explain why I should enforce an agreement that prevents a woman from discussing her own reproductive health care decisions? The lead lawyer, silver-haired, expensive, stood. Your Honor, the NDA is standard in high-profile divorces. Ms. Martinez was compensated generously. How much? I'm sorry. The settlement. How much did your client pay her? $75,000 annually for 3 years. And how much is Mr. Cross worth? A pause. Approximately $1.2 billion. So less than 0.02% of his net worth. Judge Reeves made a note. Continue. The point, Your Honor, is that Ms. Martinez accepted the terms. She can't now breach the agreement because she's unhappy with. She's 6 months pregnant. with his child, which he knew about when he demanded she perform at his wedding to another woman. The judge's voice could have cut glass. That's not breach of contract, counselor. That's coercion. We dispute that characterization. I'm sure you do. Judge Reeves turned to Elena. Ms. Martinez, did you want to perform at that wedding? Elena stood, legs shaking. No, Your Honor. Did you feel you had a choice? No. My mother's medical bills, without the settlement she'd die. And the song you performed, did it contain false statements about Mr. Cross? Elena met Damien's eyes across the courtroom. He stared back, cold fury barely contained. No, Your Honor. Every word was true. Judge Reeves nodded. Wrote something. The courtroom held its breath. Motion granted. Mr. Cross, you are temporarily enjoined from terminating the settlement payments, pending a full hearing on the validity of the NDA. Furthermore, you are ordered to pay all medical expenses for Ms. Martinez's pregnancy and delivery, as well as Ms. Eleanor Martinez's ongoing care. Failure to comply will result in contempt charges. The gavel struck. Damien's lawyers erupted. Your Honor, we'd like to request. Denied. This hearing is adjourned. Judge Reeves stood and left. Just like that. Elena couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. Grace kicked, celebrating maybe. Diane squeezed her shoulder. We won. First round, at least. Across the courtroom, Damien was arguing with his lawyers, voice rising. One of them gestured toward Elena. He shook his head sharply. Their eyes met. He mouthed something. She couldn't hear it, but she could read his lips. This isn't over. She mouthed back, I know. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Elena, how do you feel about the judge's ruling? Are you planning to sue for more? What do you want people to know about Damien Cross? Julian shielded her, one arm around her shoulders as they pushed through. Diane handled the questions with practiced ease. My client is grateful for the court's decision and looks forward to focusing on her pregnancy and her mother's health. No further comment at this time. They made it to Diane's car. Doors locked. Engine started. Elena finally exhaled. That was, she couldn't find words. A good start, Diane said, pulling into traffic. But he'll appeal. He'll drag this out as long as he can. You need to be prepared for that. How long? Months. Maybe a year. A year of fighting. A year of lawyers and court dates and Damien's threats. Elena looked down at her belly. Grace was running out of room, her movements more insistent now. I can do a year, she said quietly. Julian's hand found hers. Squeezed. 2 hours later, Elena sat across from Victoria at Margot's cafe. Victoria looked different without her wedding makeup. Younger. Tired. Real. Thank you for coming, Victoria said. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either. They ordered coffee, decaf for Elena. An awkward silence stretched. I'm sorry. Victoria's voice cracked. For everything. I didn't know about you, about the baby, about any of it. He told me he'd never been married. That he was focused on his career, waiting for the right person. And you believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was charming, successful, attentive. Everything seemed perfect. Victoria twisted her napkin. I feel like an idiot. You're not. He's good at this. Making you feel like you're the center of his world until you're not useful anymore. How did you stand it? Being married to him. Elena considered. I didn't see it at first. The control, the manipulation. It was gradual. Little things. He'd suggest what I should wear, who I should be friends with. I thought it meant he cared. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already trapped. The baby, when you told him you were pregnant, what did he say? The memory was a knife. That I had a choice to make. Him or the baby. That a child would ruin everything he'd built. Victoria's eyes filled. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. You didn't know. But I do now. And I'm testifying. For you. Whatever you need, I'll tell the court everything. How he lied to me. How he orchestrated that whole wedding knowing you were pregnant. I'll burn it all down if I have to. Elena studied her. This woman who could have been an enemy. Who'd been lied to just like she had. Why? Because he doesn't get to do this to people. Because you deserve justice. And because, Victoria's voice dropped. I saw your face when you sang. I saw what he'd done to you. And I can't be the woman who stands by and lets that go unanswered. Something shifted between them. Not friendship. Too soon, too complicated. But alliance. Understanding. Okay, Elena said. Thank you. No. Thank you. Victoria reached across the table, hesitated, then took Elena's hand. For showing me who he really is before I made the biggest mistake of my life. That night, back at Julian's apartment, Elena finally allowed herself to rest. Julian had given her the guest room indefinitely. Stay as long as you need, he'd said. No timeline, no pressure. She should have argued. Should have maintained independence, found her own place. But Grace was due in 3 weeks. Her apartment was still being fumigated. Her mother was stable but needed her close. And Julian was playing piano in the next room. Something soft, improvised. Music that felt like safety. Elena placed both hands on her belly. You're going to have a good life, she whispered. I promise. No matter what it costs, you're going to grow up knowing you're loved. Grace kicked in response. A knock at the door. Julian. Sorry to interrupt. Your mom's nurse called my phone. Yours was off. Your mom's asking to see you. She saw the news. Elena's heart stopped. How much does she know? Enough. The nurse said she's worried but stable. You should probably go. The last thing Elena wanted was her mother stressed. But hiding the truth wasn't an option anymore. Will you come with me? The words were out before she could stop them. Julian smiled. Already got my keys. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and dying flowers. Elena's mother, Eleanor, looked small against the white sheets. Oxygen tube in her nose. For in her arm. But her eyes were sharp, alert. Mija. She reached out. Come here. Elena crossed the room, took her mother's hand. I'm okay, Mama. I promise. I saw the video. That man, what he did to you. Eleanor's accent thickened with emotion. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to worry. You were sick and I'm your mother. Sick or not, I should have known. Eleanor's grip tightened. You sang so beautifully. And you were so brave. I don't feel brave. The bravest people never do. Eleanor looked past her to Julian, hovering by the door. And who is this? Julian. Elena hesitated. A friend. He's been helping me. Just a friend. Eleanor's eyebrow raised. He looks at you like you're more than that. Mama. I'm dying, Mija. I can say what I want. But she was smiling. Come here, Julian. Let me see you. He approached, nervous. Elena had never seen him nervous before. Mrs. Martinez. It's an honor to. You're the pianist from the video. I saw you. You played like you were holding her up with the music. I was trying to. Good. She needs someone to hold her up. God knows I can't anymore. Eleanor's eyes glistened. You take care of my daughter and my granddaughter. Promise me. Mama, you're going to be fine. Promise me. Eleanor repeated, eyes on Julian. I promise, he said quietly. Elena's throat closed. The machines beeped steadily. Outside, the city hummed with life. Thank you, Eleanor whispered, eyes drifting closed. Both of you. For being brave. For fighting. For loving. The nurse appeared. She needs rest now. Elena kissed her mother's forehead. I'll be back tomorrow. Bring him, Eleanor murmured, half asleep. I like him. In the parking garage, Elena finally let herself cry. Not from fear or pain. From overwhelm. From the weight of everything. The song, the court, her mother's blessing, Julian's steadfast presence. I'm sorry, she choked out. I'm not usually. Stop apologizing. Julian handed her tissues from the car. You're allowed to feel things. It's too much. All of it. Yeah, it is. But you're not alone. Not anymore. Elena looked at him. Really looked. Saw the way he'd shown up at every moment she needed someone. The way he'd paid her mother's bills without hesitation. The way he'd promised her dying mother he'd take care of her. Why are you doing this? Because when I saw you step onto that stage, terrified but determined, I saw someone worth fighting for. And I haven't been able to stop seeing it since. The parking garage was cold. Empty. But his words wrapped around her like warmth. I'm not ready, she said. For anything complicated. I need to focus on Grace, on my mother, on... I know. I'm not asking for complicated. I'm asking to be here. However you need me. Friend, ally, whatever works. And if that's all I can give, then that's enough. Grace kicked. Hard. Like she was voting. Elena laughed through tears. She likes you too. Smart kid. They drove back to his apartment in comfortable silence. And for the first time in months, Elena felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. 3 days after the court victory, Elena found the box. She'd been cleaning Julian's guest room, her room now temporarily, when she knocked over a stack of books. Behind them, tucked against the wall, a shoebox wrapped in packing tape. She shouldn't have opened it. But Grace was restless, kicking constantly, and Elena needed distraction. Her hands peeled back the tape. Inside, photos. Dozens of them. Julian younger. Maybe 25. Standing beside a woman, dark hair, bright smile, visibly pregnant. His arm around her. Both of them glowing. Elena's stomach dropped. More photos. The same woman holding a newborn. Julian beside her in a hospital bed, looking at the baby like she was his entire world. Then darker images. Funeral programs. Sympathy cards. A death certificate. Sarah Chun. Age 26. Cuz. Postpartum hemorrhage. Baby Chun. Stillborn. Elena's hands shook. The photos blurred. The door opened. Julian froze. I'm sorry, Elena said quickly. I wasn't snooping, the books fell and... It's okay. But his voice was hollow. He crossed the room, took the box gently. I should have told you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He sat on the bed, the box between them. Her name was Sarah. We met in college. Music majors. She played cello, I played piano. We were going to form a duo, travel the world performing. Elena waited. Grace had gone still, as if listening. She got pregnant our senior year. Unplanned, but we were happy. Stupid, broke, 25 but happy. We got married at City Hall. Started planning for the baby. His fingers traced the edge of a photo. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. What happened? Placental abruption during delivery. Emergency C-section. They couldn't stop the bleeding fast enough. His voice cracked. She died holding our daughter. And our daughter, she never even breathed. They were both gone in an hour. Elena's hand found his. Squeezed. That was 8 years ago. I spent the next 5 years angry. At doctors, at God, at myself for not seeing the signs. I threw myself into music because it was the only thing that didn't hurt. Is that why you helped me? Because I reminded you of... No. He looked at her directly. I helped you because what Damien did was wrong. But watching you fight for your daughter while carrying her? Yeah, that hit different. Made me think about what Sarah would have wanted. She would have fought like hell for our baby. Like you're fighting for Grace. I'm sorry you lost them. Me too. Every day. He closed the box carefully. But I learned something. Pain doesn't disappear. You just learn to carry it differently. And sometimes helping someone else carry theirs makes your own lighter. Elena's eyes burned. You've been carrying mine since the wedding. And you've been letting me. That's harder than you think, letting someone help. Grace kicked suddenly, strong, insistent. Julian's eyes widened. Was that? Yeah. Elena took his hand, placed it on her belly. She sang hello. The baby kicked again, directly under his palm. Julian's face transformed, grief and wonder mixing into something new. She's strong. She has to be. Her father's a coward, and her mother's a mess. Her mother's a warrior. There's a difference. Another kick. Stronger. I think she agrees with you, Elena said. They sat like that, his hand on her belly, Grace moving beneath it, two broken people learning to piece each other back together. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Sarah, about the life Julian had lost, about how he'd turned that pain into purpose. At 2 a.m., she found him at the piano, playing something haunting, beautiful. Can't sleep either? She lowered herself into the chair beside him. Old habit. When I can't turn my brain off, I play. His fingers moved across the keys without looking. This was Sarah's favorite. Debussy. Clair de Lune. It's beautiful. She was beautiful. Inside and out. The kind of person who made everyone around her better. He played a few more measures. I spent years being angry that someone that good could be taken. But lately I've been thinking, maybe the point isn't how long you get with someone. Maybe it's what you do with the time you have. Is that why you let me stay? To make the most of the time. I let you stay because you needed somewhere safe. And because, he stopped playing. Because for the first time in 8 years, I don't feel like I'm living in the past. You and Grace, you're pulling me forward. And I'm grateful for that. Elena's throat tightened. I'm still not ready for. I know. And I'm not asking. I'm telling you what you've done for me, whether you meant to or not. Grace kicked. Hard enough that Elena gasped. You okay? She's running out of room. Doctor said any day now. Are you scared? Terrified. Of labor, of raising her alone, of screwing everything up. You won't be alone. Julian's voice was quiet, certain. I made a promise to your mother. I keep my promises. Even if this gets messy? Even if Damien finds new ways to make my life hell. Especially then. Elena studied him. This man who'd lost everything and still chose to show up. Who'd seen her at her worst and stayed anyway. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Sarah would approve? Of you helping me? Julian smiled, sad but genuine. She'd have been the first one at that wedding, ready to throw hands. Sarah didn't tolerate bullies. She would have loved watching you take Damien down with a song. I wish I could have met her. Me too. She would have liked you. You're both stubborn, brave, terrible at asking for help. I'm getting better at it. Yeah, you are. Grace kicked again, rhythmic, insistent, like she was dancing to the piano's echo. I should try to sleep, Elena said. Doctor's appointment tomorrow. Want company? Or is that overstepping? Company's good. If you're sure. I'm sure. Elena stood slowly, her body heavy with Grace's weight. At the doorway she paused. Julian. Yeah, thank you. For telling me about Sarah. For trusting me with that. Thank you for listening. For not treating it like it was too painful to talk about. Pain shared is pain lessened. Someone told me that once. Smart person. Yeah, he is. She left him at the piano, playing Claire de Lune into the early morning. And for the first time since the wedding, Elena fell asleep feeling something besides fear. She felt seen, understood, safe, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something that looked like healing. The doctor's office was crowded. Pregnant women everywhere, partners hovering, magazines about parenting stacked on every table. Elena sat alone until Julian appeared with 2 bottles of water. Line was long. He handed her one. How are you feeling? Like I swallowed a watermelon that's trying to escape. He laughed. The sound made other women look up, smile. Like joy was contagious. Elena Martinez? A nurse called. Julian stood with her. She didn't tell him not to. The exam room was small. Clinical. Dr. Patel, her OB, looked up from the chart. Elena, good to see you. And this is? Julian. A friend. Dr. Patel didn't press. Let's check on baby. Up on the table. The ultrasound gel was cold. Elena flinched. Julian's hand found hers. Held on. The monitor flickered to life. There, a tiny form curled tight. Heartbeat thudding strong and fast. Everything looks excellent, Dr. Patel said. Baby's measuring right on track. Could be any day now. Elena stared at the screen. Grace. Her daughter. Real and close and coming. Can you tell what position she's in? Head down. Ready to go. Your body knows what to do. Julian's grip tightened. His eyes fixed on the monitor like he was memorizing every pixel. Dr. Patel handed Elena a towel, printed out ultrasound photos. Any questions? What if I'm not ready? No one's ever ready. But you'll be amazing. Dr. Patel smiled. See you next week. Or sooner if she decides to make an entrance. Outside, Julian was quiet. You okay? Elena asked. Yeah, that was seeing her like that. He stopped walking. I never got to see our daughter on a screen. Sarah went into labor too fast. By the time we got to the hospital, everything was already going wrong. Elena's chest ached. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No. I wanted to be there. I needed to be there. He looked at her. Watching Grace's heartbeat, seeing her move, it didn't make me sad. It made me grateful. That you're letting me be part of this. You're choosing to be part of it. That's different. Is it? They walked to the car. The ultrasound photo was in Elena's purse, Grace's profile, one tiny fist near her face. Can I have a copy? Julian asked. Of the photo? Why? Because in 3 weeks she'll be here. And I want to remember what it felt like to see her before the world did. Elena pulled out the photo, handed it to him. He held it carefully, like it was made of glass. That evening, Julian cooked dinner. Not takeout. Actual cooking. Chicken, roasted vegetables, bread he'd made from scratch. When did you learn to do this? Elena asked, setting the table. After Sarah died. Had to eat something other than ramen and grief. He plated the food. Turns out cooking's like music. Follow the recipe, but add your own interpretation. They ate in comfortable silence. Grace was calm for once, not kicking every 5 seconds. I talked to Diane today, Elena said. Damien's filing an appeal. Wants the restraining order overturned. Will he win? She doesn't think so. But it means more court dates. More lawyers. More dragging this out. He's trying to exhaust you. It's working. Elena pushed food around her plate. I'm tired, Julian. Tired of fighting, tired of being the cautionary tale, tired of... Her voice cracked. I want my life back. What did your life look like? Before him. She thought about it. Small. Quiet. I taught voice lessons to kids. Sang at weddings on weekends. Had coffee with friends. Read books. Nothing dramatic. Sounds nice. It was. I didn't know how nice until it was gone. You'll have it again. Different but yours. With a baby and an ex-husband who wants to destroy me? With a daughter who'll grow up knowing her mother fought for her. That's not nothing. Elena's eyes burned. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I just say what I wish someone had said to me 8 years ago. Grace kicked. Once, twice. Like punctuation. She's awake, Elena said. Can I? Julian hesitated. Can I feel? She nodded. He moved his chair closer, placed his hand on her belly. Grace kicked directly into his palm. She's strong. She gets it from her mother. And her mother gets it from surviving what would have broken most people. They sat like that, his hand on her belly, Grace moving between them, the dinner cooling on the table. I'm scared, Elena whispered. Of labor, of being someone's mother, of doing it wrong. You'll be terrified and amazing. Both at once. What if I can't love her enough? What if? Elena, look at me. Julian's voice was gentle but firm. You chose her over everything. Your marriage, your security, your pride. You sang your truth in front of 300 people to protect her future. You've loved her enough since the moment you knew she existed. Tears spilled over. I want her to have better than I did. Better than this mess. She will. Because she'll have you. Grace kicked again, harder. Elena gasped. That hurt. No. She's running out of space. Getting restless. Like her mom. Elena laughed through tears. Yeah, like her mom. Julian's thumb traced circles on her belly. Grace seemed to calm under his touch. You're good at that, Elena said. What? Making things feel less scary. That's all any of us can do, right? Make each other less scared. Later, Elena couldn't sleep again. She found Julian on the couch, reading. He looked up when she appeared. Can't turn your brain off? Grace won't let me. She's doing gymnastics. Come here. He shifted, made space. Elena hesitated. This felt like crossing a line. But Grace kicked sharply and her back ached, and she was tired of being alone. She sat beside him. He pulled a blanket over both of them. Talk to me, he said. About anything. Tell me something good. Something that has nothing to do with Damien or court or any of this. Julian thought. When Sarah was pregnant, we used to make up stories about what our daughter would be like. Sarah said she'd be stubborn and musical. I said she'd be kind and brave. You think Grace will be those things? I think she already is. She's stubborn enough to survive everything you've been through while carrying her. And brave enough to kick me in the hand during ultrasounds. Elena laughed. Actually laughed. There it is, Julian said softly. What? The sound of you not carrying the weight of the world for 5 seconds. Grace kicked. Softer this time. Like she was settling. Elena's head drifted to Julian's shoulder. He didn't move. Didn't pull away. Is this okay? She asked. This is perfect. They sat like that. 2 broken people, 1 unborn baby, learning that maybe healing didn't mean forgetting pain. Maybe it meant finding someone willing to sit with you in it. Elena's eyes drifted closed. For the first time in months, sleep came easy. And in the morning, when she woke still on the couch with Julian's arm around her and Grace peaceful in her belly, she didn't pull away. She stayed. The call came at 3 a.m. Elena's mother had collapsed. Ambulance. ICU. Come now. Julian drove through empty streets while Elena sat frozen, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the door handle. She's going to be okay, he said. Elena couldn't respond. Grace kicked frantically, sensing her panic. The hospital was too bright. Antiseptic smell. Fluorescent lights. A nurse led them to the ICU. Her mother looked smaller than ever. Tubes everywhere. Machines beeping. Eyes closed. Mrs. Martinez experienced cardiac arrest, the doctor said. We resuscitated her, but her heart is weak. The next 48 hours are critical. Can I see her? 5 minutes. She's sedated. Elena approached the bed. Took her mother's hand. It was cold. I'm here, Mama. I'm right here. No response. Just the steady beep of monitors. Julian stayed by the door, giving her space. Elena's phone buzzed. She ignored it. Buzzed again. You should check that, Julian said quietly. Diane. Emergency hearing scheduled for 9 a.m. Damien's legal team filed motion to terminate settlement immediately. Judge Reeves wants both parties present. Elena stared at the message. Her mother dying. Grace due any day. And Damien still circling like a shark. I can't do this anymore. Julian crossed to her. Can't do what? Fight him. Go to court. Pretend I'm strong enough for all of this. Her voice broke. My mother's dying, Julian. And I'm supposed to show up at a courthouse and defend myself against a man who has unlimited resources and no conscience. Diane can handle it. You stay here with your mother. If I don't show up, he wins. The judge dismisses the restraining order. The settlement ends. My mother's care gets cut off. She couldn't breathe. He planned this. Knew I couldn't be two places at once. He didn't plan your mother's heart attack. No, but he's using it. That's what he does. Finds your weakness and exploits it. Grace kicked hard. Elena gasped, pressed her hand to her side. You okay? Braxton Hicks. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. At 7 a.m., Julian bought her coffee from the hospital cafeteria. She couldn't drink it. Her mother was still unconscious. Stable, the nurses said. But stable wasn't better. Elena's phone rang. Diane, I heard about your mother. I'm so sorry. Can you handle the hearing without me? Pause. I can try. But Damien's lawyers are claiming you're avoiding court, that you're not taking this seriously. The judge might not like your absence. My mother had a heart attack. I'll explain that. But Elena, Diane's voice was careful. If you're not there, if we lose this motion, everything stops. The payments, the medical coverage, all of it. The ultimatum was clear. Abandon her dying mother or lose everything. Elena looked at Eleanor. Pale, still hooked to machines. I'll be there. Are you sure? I don't have a choice. She hung up. Julian was watching. You can't leave her. I can't lose the settlement either. Without it, she dies anyway. There has to be another way. There isn't. The words came out sharp, desperate. Don't you get it? Damien designed this. He wants me to choose. Again. Between surviving and staying human. Then I'll go to the hearing. I'll testify, I'll tell them. You're not part of this case. Your testimony doesn't matter. Then what does matter? Nothing. Nothing matters because he always wins. Elena was crying now, angry tears. He'll outlast me, outspend me, outlive me. And I'm supposed to keep fighting like there's a chance I'll come out ahead. Julian grabbed her shoulders. Yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Because giving up means he was right about you. That you were disposable. That you don't matter. Maybe I don't. The words hung between them. Ugly. True. Grace kicked. Hard. Your daughter thinks you matter, Julian said quietly. Your mother thinks you matter. I think. Don't. Elena pulled away. Don't make this about feelings or hope, or whatever you think this is between us. You've been amazing and I'm grateful, but this isn't your fight. You can walk away anytime. Is that what you want? Me to walk away? I want everyone to stop pretending this ends well. It doesn't. I lose no matter what. The only question is how much I lose. Julian's face hardened. You're right. I can walk away. I'm not the one carrying your baby. I'm not the one married to a monster. I'm nobody really. A pianist who got invested in someone else's tragedy because his own life was too empty to notice. Julian. No, you're right. This isn't my fight. I should go. He turned. Started walking. Elena's chest cracked open. Wait! But he was already gone. The hearing was a nightmare. Elena sat alone at the plaintiff's table. Diane beside her, professional and focused. Damien's legal team filled 3 rows. Damien himself sat in the back, perfectly composed. Judge Reeves entered. Everyone stood. Ms. Martinez, I understand your mother is hospitalized. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you, Your Honor. However, we're here to address serious allegations made by Mr. Cross's counsel. They claim you've been violating the NDA by giving interviews, leveraging your viral status for financial gain. That's not true. Damien's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we have evidence. Instagram posts, Twitter threads, a podcast interview scheduled for next week. I canceled that interview. Elena's voice shook. I haven't given any statements beyond what I said in court. You posted a photo 2 days ago with the caption Grace and I are surviving. That's a clear reference to my pregnancy. Not to him. Judge Reeves held up a hand. Enough. Ms. Martinez, while I sympathize with your situation, the NDA's terms are clear. Any public discussion of the marriage or its circumstances constitutes breach. But she's discussing her own life, Diane argued. Her pregnancy, her experiences. Experiences directly tied to Mr. Cross. The judge looked tired. I'm going to rule in Mr. Cross's favor on this motion. The restraining order preventing termination of the settlement is lifted. However, she looked directly at Damien. Mr. Cross, you are still obligated to cover medical expenses for the child until paternity is established and custody arrangements are made. Damien's lawyer smiled. Elena's world collapsed. Court adjourned. The gavel struck. Diane was talking, explaining options, appeals, next steps. Elena couldn't hear her. Across the courtroom, Damien stood. Buttoned his jacket. Met her eyes. He'd won. Again. As he walked past, he leaned in close. You should have stayed quiet. Elena made it to the hospital bathroom before she fell apart. Locked in a stall, Grace kicking frantically, sobs tearing through her chest. She'd lost. The settlement was gone. Her mother's care would end. Grace would be born into nothing. And Julian. She'd driven him away. Pushed him out when he'd only tried to help. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital's billing department. Your mother's account has been flagged for non-payment. Please contact our office immediately. Another buzz. Unknown number. This is Marcus, Damien's friend. I saw what happened in court. I'm sorry. He's wrong. Call me if you need help. Another. Victoria. I heard. I'm coming to you. Where are you? Elena couldn't respond. Couldn't move. Grace kicked. Harder than ever before. Then a sharp pain. Low in her back. Radiating forward. Not Braxton Hicks. The real thing. No, Elena whispered. Not now. Please not now. Another contraction. Stronger. Her water broke. She fumbled for her phone, hands shaking. Called 911. I'm in labor. University Hospital, 3rd floor bathroom. I'm alone. The operator's voice was calm, efficient. Stay on the line. Help is coming. But all Elena could think was, Julian's gone. Her mother's dying. Damien won. And Grace was coming into a world where her mother had nothing left to give. The hospital staff found Elena on the bathroom floor, gripping the sink, breathing through contractions. How far apart? A nurse helped her up. 5 minutes. Maybe less. They wheeled her to labor and delivery. Different floor from her mother's ICU. Different world. Who should we call? The intake nurse had a clipboard. Elena opened her mouth. No name came out. Julian was gone. Her mother was unconscious. Damien wouldn't come even if she asked. No one. You're sure? Partner, family, friend. There's no one. The nurse's expression softened. Okay, honey. We'll take care of you. They got her into a gown, hooked up monitors. Grace's heartbeat filled the room, strong, fast, insistent. A contraction hit. Elena gripped the bed rail, teeth clenched. You're at 6 centimeters, the doctor said. Moving fast. Baby will be here in a few hours. Hours. Alone. Giving birth while her mother died 2 floors up in Julian. Another contraction. Worse. Across the city, Julian sat in his apartment staring at his phone. He'd left the hospital angry. Righteous. Convinced Elena needed to push him away to feel strong. But now, 2 hours later, the anger had burned out. Leaving her felt like abandoning Sarah all over again. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Victoria. Elena's in labor. University Hospital. She's alone. His keys were in his hand before he'd finished reading. In the delivery room, Elena was drowning. 8 centimeters. Contractions overlapping. No break between them. You're doing great, the nurse said. Elena wasn't doing great. She was breaking apart. Her phone buzzed on the side table. She couldn't reach it. The nurse checked. It's someone named Diane? Answer it. The nurse put it on speaker. Elena. Diane's voice. I heard you're in labor. Are you okay? Does it matter? Listen. I pulled some strings. Judge Reeves agreed to an emergency review of her ruling. We have 48 hours to provide evidence that Damien orchestrated this. The timing, the motion, everything. I'm having a baby, Diane. I can't. You don't have to do anything. I have Victoria's testimony. Marcus reached out with documents, and 3 of Damien's former employees contacted me after seeing the video. They're willing to testify about his pattern of financial abuse. Another contraction. Elena couldn't speak. I know the timing's terrible, Diane continued. But I need your permission to move forward. To fight this. Elena breathed through the pain. Thought about Grace. About her mother. About everything she'd already lost. Do it. Whatever it takes. You've got it. Now go have your baby. The line went dead. Julian burst through the hospital doors at a run. Labor and delivery, 3rd floor. He took the stairs 2 at a time. The nurse at the desk looked up. Can I help you? Elena Martinez. She's in labor. I need to. Family only. He stopped. What was he? A friend? A maybe? Nothing official. Please. She's alone. The nurse studied him. Saw something in his face that made her soften. Room 347. But if she says you leave, you leave. Deal. He ran. Room 347. Elena was on her side, gripping the bed rail, making sounds she didn't know she could make. You're at 9 centimeters, the doctor said. Almost time to push. The door opened. Julian. Elena's vision blurred. You came back. Of course I came back. He crossed to the bed, took her hand. I'm sorry. For leaving, for saying those things. You were right. I was pushing you away. A contraction cut her off. She squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt. He didn't flinch. Breathe. I've got you. I can't do this. Yes, you can. You've done harder things than this. I'm scared. Me too. But we're scared together. The contraction passed. Elena gasped for air. Your mother? Julian asked quietly. Still unconscious. Still critical. She's going to fight to meet her granddaughter. You know she will. Another contraction. Closer. Harder. The doctor checked. 10 centimeters. Time to push. I'm not ready. You are, Julian said. Grace is ready. Let's meet her. 30 minutes later, Elena was sure she was dying. One more push, the doctor said. Big one. I can't. You can. Julian's voice in her ear. One more. For Grace. Elena bore down. Screamed. Felt something give. Then a different sound. Crying. High-pitched. Furious. Alive. She's here. The doctor held up a tiny, squirming, perfect human. It's a girl. They placed Grace on Elena's chest. Warm. Wet. Real. Elena's hands came up automatically, cradling her daughter. Hi, baby. Hi. Grace stopped crying. Looked up with unfocused eyes. Found her mother's face. She's perfect, Julian whispered. Tears streaming. She's everything. Elena couldn't stop staring. 10 fingers. 10 toes. Dark hair. Her nose. Damien's chin. But that didn't matter because she was Grace and she was here and she was beautiful, the nurse said, smiling. Congratulations, Mama. Mama. Elena was someone's mother now. Grace made a sound, half cry, half sigh. Nestled into Elena's chest like she'd always belonged there. 7 pounds 4 ounces, the nurse announced. Born at 2:47 p.m. Julian's hand rested on Elena's shoulder. Not possessive. Supportive. You did it, he said. We did it. Elena looked up at him. You came back. I'll always come back. 2 hours later, Grace was cleaned, swaddled, nursing. Elena felt hollowed out. Exhausted. Transformed. A knock at the door. Victoria appeared, holding flowers. Can I come in? Yeah. Victoria approached the bed slowly. Looked at Grace. Her eyes filled. She's beautiful, Elena. Thank you. For texting Julian. For everything. I testified. This morning. Told Diane everything Damien said about you, about the pregnancy, about his plan to humiliate you. Victoria's voice was steady. He lied to both of us. I'm done protecting him. Elena shifted Grace in her arms. That must have been hard. Easier than living with the alternative. Victoria touched Grace's tiny hand. She deserves better than secrets and lies. Yeah, she does. That evening, a nurse appeared. Your mother's awake. Asking for you. Elena's heart leaped. She's okay. Stable. Weak but awake. We can bring the baby up if you'd like. Julian helped Elena into a wheelchair, Grace bundled in her arms. They took the elevator to ICU. Eleanor was pale but her eyes were open. Alert. Mija. Her voice was barely there. Mama. Elena wheeled closer. Meet your granddaughter. This is Grace. Eleanor's eyes filled. She reached out with a trembling hand, touched Grace's cheek. She's perfect. She is. You did it, Mija. You survived. We both did. Eleanor looked at Julian. You kept your promise. I did. Good. Eleanor's eyes drifted closed, but she was smiling. Good. Late that night, Elena woke to Grace fussing. Julian was there, had never left, dozing in the chair beside her bed. I've got her, Elena whispered. But he woke anyway. Watched as she nursed Grace, both of them learning this new language together. What happens now? He asked quietly. I don't know. Court. Custody. Figuring out how to be a mother. She looked down at Grace. But we're here. We made it. Yeah, you did. We, Elena corrected. We made it. Julian smiled. Exhausted. Real. Outside, the city moved on. Damien was somewhere plotting his next move. The legal battle wasn't over. But here in this room, Elena, Grace, and Julian, there was peace. Temporary. Fragile. But real. And for tonight, that was enough. 3 months later. Elena stood in the courthouse lobby, Grace asleep against her chest in a carrier. Julian beside her. Diane reviewing final notes. You ready? Diane asked. As I'll ever be. They'd spent months building the case. Victoria's testimony. Marcus's documents proving Damien had orchestrated the wedding performance as retaliation. 3 former employees detailing his pattern of financial abuse and control. The evidence was overwhelming. But Damien had money. And money had a way of rewriting truth. The courtroom doors opened. Judge Reeves presided. Damien sat with his legal team, smaller now, less confident. The publicity had cost him. Investors pulling out. Board members resigning. His empire cracking under scrutiny. He wouldn't look at Elena. Wouldn't acknowledge Grace. "We're here for final arguments," Judge Reeves said. "Ms. Lewiston?" Diane stood. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Mr. Cross used financial coercion to control his ex-wife, forced her into a degrading public performance while pregnant, and attempted to terminate support payments in retaliation for her speaking the truth. This isn't a contract dispute. It's abuse." Damien's lawyer rose. "My client maintains." "Your client can maintain whatever he wants," Judge Reeves interrupted. "I've reviewed the testimony. I've seen the documents. I've watched that video 4 times. She looked directly at Damien. "Mr. Cross, do you have anything to say for yourself?" A long pause. Damien stood slowly. "Your Honor, I made mistakes. I acknowledge that. But I was building a company, making decisions under pressure. You gave your pregnant wife an ultimatum. Choose the baby or the marriage. It was more complicated than." "Was it?" Judge Reeves's voice cut like glass. "Because it seems quite simple from where I'm sitting. You wanted control. When she chose her child over your demands, you punished her. And when she dared to speak publicly about it, you tried to destroy her financially." Damien's jaw tightened. "I provided for her. The settlement was generous." "Generous?" The judge almost laughed. "You're worth over $1 billion. You gave her $75,000 a year tied to a non-disclosure agreement. That's not generosity, Mr. Cross. That's hush money." Grace stirred in the carrier. Elena's hand automatically went to soothe her. Judge Reeves noticed. "How old is the baby?" 3 months, Your Honor." "And Mr. Cross has met his daughter?" Silence. "Mr. Cross, I asked you a question." "No, Your Honor. I haven't." "Do you want to?" Another pause. "Longer." "No." The word hung in the air. "Final." "Damning." Judge Reeves made a note. "Then here's my ruling. The NDA is void. Ms. Martinez is free to discuss her experiences without legal consequence. The settlement is tripled and extended for 5 years, with annual cost of living adjustments. Mr. Cross will pay all medical expenses for the child, all educational expenses through college, and Ms. Martinez's legal fees in their entirety." Damien's lawyer shot to his feet. "Your Honor, that's..." Additionally, Mr. Cross is ordered to establish a trust fund for the child in the amount of $5 million, inaccessible to either parent until she turns 18. "Your Honor, I'm not finished." Judge Reeves looked at Damien. "You will have no custody rights, no visitation rights, and no contact with Ms. Martinez or her daughter unless she initiates it. You've made it clear you want no relationship with this child. I'm granting you that wish permanently." The gavel struck. Court adjourned. Outside, reporters swarmed. "Elena, how do you feel about the ruling? Are you planning to write a book? What do you want to say to other women in similar situations?" Julian created a path through the crowd. Diane handled questions with practiced ease. Elena stopped. Turned to the cameras. "I want to say this. To anyone who's been told they're not enough, that their truth doesn't matter, that survival means silence, you're stronger than you know. And your voice. It's the most powerful thing you own. Don't let anyone take it from you." Grace made a sound. A small coo. Elena smiled down at her. "This is Grace. She's why I fought. She's why I'll keep fighting. And she'll grow up knowing her mother chose her. Every single time." The cameras clicked. The questions continued. But Elena was done. She had everything she needed. 1 week later, Elena stood in her new apartment. Not large, but hers. 2 bedrooms. Natural light. A window seat where she could watch the city. Julian had helped her move in. Was currently assembling Grace's crib with instructions spread across the floor. "This piece doesn't fit," he muttered. "You're holding it upside down." "I'm a pianist, not a carpenter." Elena laughed. Grace was on a blanket nearby, discovering her hands. Her mother was in the 2nd bedroom, moved in yesterday, oxygen machine humming softly. Recovering. Stable. Alive. Done. Julian stepped back from the assembled crib. It wobbled slightly. "That's going to collapse the first time I put her in it. It's structurally sound." "Probably." Elena crossed to him. Grace cooed from her blanket. "Thank you. For all of this. The move, the furniture, everything. You keep thanking me. Because I keep meaning it." Julian's hands found her waist. "Gentle. Careful. Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "What happens now? With us?" Elena had been asking herself the same question for weeks. What were they? Friends? More? Something without a name yet? I don't know, she said honestly. I'm still figuring out how to be Grace's mother, how to take care of my mom, how to rebuild my life. I don't have space for complicated. What if it's not complicated? What if it's simple? Nothing's ever simple. Then let's make it simple. Julian's voice was steady. I care about you. About Grace. About being here. However that looks, friend, partner, guy who assembles questionable furniture. I'm in. Even though I come with baggage and a 3-month-old and a mother who requires round-the-clock care? Especially because of that. You're not baggage, Elena. You're the bravest person I know. Grace chose that moment to cry. Loud. Insistent. Elena laughed. Rain, check on this conversation? Always. She picked up Grace, soothed her. Julian watched with that expression. The one that said he saw them both clearly and wasn't going anywhere. That evening, Elena's mother was awake, sitting in her new room. You like it, Mama? It's perfect, Mija. Everything's perfect. Not everything. But better. Eleanor reached for her hand. I'm proud of you. For fighting. For winning. I didn't win. The judge ruled in my favor, but Damien's still out there. You won the moment you sang that song. Everything after? That's the prize for winning. Elena thought about it. The apartment. Her mother alive. Grace healthy. Julian in the next room, probably Googling how to fix wobbly cribs. Maybe her mother was right. What will you do now? Eleanor asked. With the settlement, the trust fund, everything? Start over. Maybe teach voice lessons again. Maybe something new. I have time to figure it out. And Julian? What about him? Don't play games with me. I see how he looks at you. How you look at him. Elena smiled. One day at a time, Mama. That's all I can promise. One day at a time is how we survive. But one day at a time is also how we build something beautiful. Late that night, Grace finally asleep, her mother resting, Elena found Julian on the couch. She down? He asked. For now. 3 hours if I'm lucky. He made space. She curled into it naturally, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. I've been thinking, Elena said. Dangerous. About that song. The one I sang at the wedding. What about it? It was supposed to be revenge. Exposure. Making him hurt the way he hurt me. It was all those things. But it was also the first time in years I felt like myself. Not his wife, not his victim. Just me. Julian's arm tightened around her shoulders. You've always been you. You were there the whole time, waiting to be heard. I want to keep singing. Not for revenge or exposure. For me. For Grace. For anyone who needs to hear that it's possible to survive. You will. I'll play piano. We'll book small venues, coffee shops, anywhere that'll have us. You'd do that. Elena. I'd do anything for you. When are you going to believe that? She turned to look at him. Really look. Saw the truth in his eyes, not obligation or pity, but choice. He was choosing her. Choosing them. I'm starting to, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. Soft. Patient. Waiting for her to set the pace. One day at a time, he asked. One day at a time. 6 months later. Elena stood on a small stage in a coffee shop downtown. 20 people in the audience. Julian at the piano. Grace was with her grandmother in the front row, babbling happily. This is an original song, Elena said into the microphone. I wrote it about survival. About choosing yourself when no one else will. It's called Grace. Julian's fingers found the opening notes. Elena closed her eyes, breathed, opened her mouth, and sang. Not for revenge. Not for exposure. Not to prove anything to anyone. For herself. For her daughter. For every person who'd ever been told their voice didn't matter. The song was about pain and healing, about falling and rising, about love found in unexpected places. When the final note faded, the coffee shop was silent. Then applause. Genuine. Warm. Real. Elena opened her eyes. Found Julian smiling at her. Found her mother crying proud tears. Found Grace reaching toward her, wanting her mother. This was victory. Not defeating Damien, though she had. Not the money or the settlement, though that helped. This. Her voice. Her choice. Her life. Finally, completely, beautifully hers. She picked up Grace from her grandmother's arms. Kissed her forehead. That was for you, she whispered. Everything I do is for you. Grace grabbed her mother's hair. Laughed. And Elena laughed too. Because despite everything, the pain, the betrayal, the fight, she'd survived. More than survived. She'd found Grace. Thank you for watching this video to the very end. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it. We have a lot of other interesting and beautiful stories lined up for you. So click on the image showing on your screen to watch the next one.